important when I was, starting off at low GM was because I was watching Parting play, and he was always talking about how he was a very build order based player, and he would get so many wins just by doing his build order properly and all these aggressive build orders. And that's when I kind of realized, like, if I do my build order right, like if I do my build order perfect, like I can get 6K easily. Because believe me, lots of GMs are not doing their build orders right or not doing it cleanly. So I think that's the first thing that any new player or aspiring player should focus on.
And we're live or recorded. Welcome everybody to this episode of Ranked. It's me, your host, Drekken, and I am joined with my co-host to my left, Nanman. Always excited to work with you, Nanman. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm really pumped. We got to be talking about some Protoss tonight because I got a little bias in that department.
Naturally, of course. And we're joined here with our guest, Trigger, from Basilisk Gaming. Thank you, Trigger, for coming.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
I'm glad to have you here. So guys, we are going to be talking about a little bit of PvP, and we're going to go through, here on the show, we like to go deeper into the games that have happened in the past and try to get the perspective of, the people who've played them or the experts, depending on the episode. And so Trigger here, we're going to talk a little bit about your games against Nightmare from TSL9. But before we do that, I actually want to get a little bit about you and your history now. Like, I don't know how many people, you're just kind of like up and coming. I feel like you've only kind of really broken in this scene the last 2 years. So like, where were you before that? Or even how did you get here?
Well, before this, I was actually just playing StarCraft 2 arcade games, and I used to be part of this little community called Zone Control, and they had a little bit of competition. Like, some people would put up some money for small tournaments, and I used to be the best in that game. But eventually it got kind of boring, and I had to go to school, and I didn't really like school, and I had to make money, so decided to try my hand at Pro StarCraft 2, and it worked out pretty well, I think.
And that has to be like the best StarCraft story in the universe, where it's like, you know what, I needed money, so I just decided to be a pro, and like, and it worked.
It's working out, yeah.
Like, I don't feel like that. Like, that's like the rarest story ever. It's like, you know what, I'm gonna be a pro, and then you know what, it works. Wow, who knew? So easy, easy peasy. Yeah. So you made the transition over to pro though, like to play like competitively from arcade game. I feel like that in itself is just rare. So like, why did you make, or how did you make that transition over, really?
Well, I was going to university for my first year, and I really didn't like it. So my motivation really was just to not have to go to school. So I have to get good at this game really fast. I put a lot of hours in on the ladder, got 6K really fast, 6K MMR really fast, and from there I just kept improving, and then eventually I realized maybe I can go full-time in this, and I quit school, or taking a break from it. I'm not really too sure which one at this point.
Because it depends on how, like, your tournaments.
Well, that's what I told my parents I was taking a break from it, but it kind of seems like I'm quitting, so. Yeah.
So then, okay, in that then, what's the secret to going, like, improving really fast then? Because I know people who've been playing this game for years and they have not gotten 6K in the amount of time you've gotten 6K.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten this question before, like, what's your secret? And like, there's no like a secret method or something. It's more like, it's just more like how you approach, how you improve, like, reflecting on your mistakes and like not making excuses when you you need to know exactly what you're doing wrong in order to improve. And I think some people have trouble recognizing what they're doing wrong, or would prefer to deflect, like say that their opponent's race is bullshit. I don't know if I'm last correct.
That's fine.
Yeah, they prefer to do that instead of admitting their mistakes. So I think that's one thing. I think talent is a factor as well. Just like, I think I'm good with the computer. I'm good with the mouse. I'm good at controlling my units and stuff like that. So
yeah.
There is that factor as well, though.
I'm sure Nan might have a question too, but I'm super curious. You've like sparked all these questions in me, and this idea of when it came to even like reflecting on it, does that mean you just watched your replays after every game? Like, did you like get coached? Like, what was like, how did you figure that out?
Well, realizing what you're doing wrong is tough, and I think that's also a part of talent, just like knowing what you're doing wrong. But like watching your own replays is something I do when if I don't know what went wrong or like I'm a bit confused how the game went, then yeah, I absolutely watch the replays. I don't watch every replay, but I do watch a lot of them, and I think a lot of the mistakes that people make are a lot more basic than they think. So like when I coach players, a lot of them are like, "Oh, I don't think I used the right army composition or used the right strategy," but in reality, I'm watching their replays and their build loader is like completely off, right? So I think it's just like comes down to knowing how to do the basics really well, and from there you can focus on strategy and whatnot.
So you think that a lot of players, at least ones that are trying to improve that are not able to, are maybe even viewing what their mistakes are in the wrong way? Like you said, they don't have those building blocks of, hey, you messed up this build order, and they are just so tunnel vision of, oh, my army comp is wrong.
Yeah, I think that's totally it. I mean, the reason that I think build orders are so important when I was, starting off at low GM was because I was watching Parting play, and he was always talking about how like, he was a very build order based player, and he would get so many wins just by doing his build order properly and all these aggressive build orders. And that's when I kind of realized, like, if I do my build order right, like if I do my build order perfect, like I can get 6K easily. Because believe me, lots of GMs are not doing their build orders right or not doing it cleanly. So I think that's the first thing that any new player or aspiring player should focus on.
That's such an interesting thing to like. I didn't even really think about it. Just like the holes in the build order. Is there something you see commonly when it comes to build orders being a mess?
Well, I think it depends on what level you are. If you're like like not like kind of new to the game, like you're just like getting supply block all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you're just you're like building 3 robo bays and like 3 robotics bays, and it's like, no, you're supposed to only have 1. But if you're higher level, it gets a bit more complicated. It's more like just being like really clean all the time. It's like put down your Twilight as soon as you have 100 gas. Because if you wait till you have 150 gas, your blink is too late to do a certain attack or defend a certain Widow Mine drop. And those things all matter. So
it's like,
yeah, I think it gets a bit more complicated.
So it's like basically tightening up your build orders in that regard, where maybe players or even at the higher level, it's kind of letting smaller things slip.
Yeah, I mean, you can always tighten your build orders. Every top pro player is always tightening their build orders. There's also the fact that like there's minor adjustments that you want to make to your build order depending on what your opponent's doing. And to know those minor adjustments takes a lot of experience. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Keep in mind.
And that comes with time too, and like a lot of practice in tournaments and
building up that experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I actually didn't really think about that. That's actually a really good point that you actually, and you mentioned the fundamentals, mastering fundamentals first, and then getting to that point. Then once you have that, you can really tweak, from there, or even think like then you can probably even think about strategy once you've got the fundamentals. Those of you who are listening out there. Do you find a lot of times players when they start, and I won't harp on this too much, but the idea that they focus too hard on like say trying to be strategic more than they focus on their fundamentals? Like, is there a common trend? Because you probably do coaching and probably catch this a lot, I imagine.
Yeah, I'll just give you a really good analogy for like how I can explain this. So like imagine you're going to war and you bring like swords and but you have like the greatest strategic person on your side. Like you have like, who is that famous Chinese
Sun Tzu?
That book, The Art of War? Yeah. Imagine you have Sun Tzu on your team, but all your soldiers have swords. And your opponents are like the dumbest people ever, but they all have guns. You're still gonna lose, right? Like that's how I see it kind of. Like, it doesn't really matter how smart you are if you don't have any firepower. So you need the tools to deploy your strategy.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
I like that. Yeah.
I might clip that and use that for later for other content. But one thing I wanted to, so going into this TSL 9, you played against Nightmare, and we're focusing here on PvP. What's your general thoughts on PvP right now, as it stands?
Personally, I'm liking it because I'm very good at the 1-gate meta, which is kind of like the main way people play these days because of the map pool and everything. But I've heard a lot of opinions from other top Protoss players, and they all hate it. They really don't like the 1-gate, and Max Pax is like farming them with the 1-gate. So I don't know, it's pretty mixed on the Protoss side, but personally, since I'm good at it, it's good for me. So.
Then, so what was your thought process like when you were going up against Nightmare? what was your kind of like overall thoughts going into there? Like, what were you doing to preparing, and what was kind of like how did you plan to take get into these games?
Well, I know that Nightmare is not a very good one gate player, so I figured he might not even go for it, or he might try one gate, but he wouldn't do it very well. So I wasn't really afraid. So I was just gonna do my one gate thing and play super solid, because if he goes 2 gate and I play 1 gate, like that's just better for me if I play it correctly. So that's just kind of what I was going for. Just like playing solid 1 gate, because that's stronger than 2 gate in this meta. So.
Yeah, can you break that down a little bit more? Like, why is 1 gate just better than 2 gate, just like in general, for players that might not be as familiar with PvP?
There's a lot of nuances to it, but in general, just the 1 gate has lets you build a faster expansion, which gives you more money, of course. So if you can defend a 2 gate all-in with 1 gate, then you just have a nexus on your opponent, and you should be able to win. And if they play 2 gate macro, so if they're expanding behind their 2 gate, then your nexus is just faster. So you're gonna have a faster expansion, you're gonna have more money, potentially better tech as well. So
Perfect. That makes total sense.
Perfect. So why don't we jump into some of these games? Here we are on Stargate. How are you feeling about the new map pool, by the way? I know people have different mixed feelings.
So this map pool is actually the reason that 1 gate is so popular right now. So all these maps usually have ramps leading down like from the natural, so it's very defensive, and that allows you to hold 2 gate builds better as 1 gate. So that's the whole reason. But so yeah, so I like this map pool just because of that, since I like 1 gate.
Yeah, so you like the maps because they do really well for the 1 gate. Are there other aspects to these maps that might impact your build orders going into this PvP?
Well, on this specific map, this map is crazy because this map, I mean, there's a gold base at the bottom, and that's, you can legitimately open with like 2 gate and then take the gold base, and there's like so many possibilities. So what I decided to do on this specific map was just mine out these minerals in the back pocket, and then take a nexus on whichever one I like. So he's gonna block one of them, he can't block both of them, so I'll just play 1 gate that way. But in general, this map is actually, it's kind of like a 2 gate map, because generally you don't go 1 gate on this map because there's no ramp leading into the natural unless you mine that out, which takes forever. But I really wanted to go 1 gate this game, so that's what I did.
Do you find you regularly going for this pocket expansion?
No way. I mean, I think almost no pros ever start with this pocket expansion these days.
That's what I thought.
Unless they're going for some kind of full wall, but it's pretty uncommon, I would say. Although some pro players do it, so.
Well, maybe speed it up a little bit. So
And
now,
to expand on that point, why we don't take the pocket base is because imagine you're going for their 1 gate expand, and you take the pocket base, and your opponent's going 1 gate expand, and they take the natural base. Like, the player who's going to be ahead is going to be the guy who took the natural base, because they didn't have to mine out long distance mine those minerals out. So that's the main reason.
yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
That does make a lot of sense. So you haven't even kind of moved out and done any scouting at this point in time against Nightmare. You're just, again, kind of focused in on your build order. I'm just going to be as crisp and clean as possible with my stuff and not really worried about what Nightmare's doing.
Yeah,
Or is there
so
kind of
my
more
thought
behind
process,
it? Yeah, let me
yeah,
hear.
my thought process here was like, he's gonna play 2 gate on this map because this map is usually 2 gate, and he really hates 1 gate as far as I can tell. So he's gonna play 2 gate, and then he's gonna see me expand really quickly, which means he's gonna probably all in me, and that's just kind of what I was hoping for. That's why I went robotics bay, shield battery, and yeah, I got exactly what I was hoping for.
So just kind of trying to force his hand, get him to be kind of the aggressor, and you're just going to be set up perfectly with a nice defense. So do you prefer to play that more defensive style in PvP? Like, at least against Nightmare on this map? Because you know that he is a 2-gate player?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're playing 1 gate and you're playing against a 2 gate player, you're always defensive because you have no aggressive options. So yeah, you have to be a very good defensive player to play 1 gate. And I wouldn't say that I enjoy defensive games, but it's kind of a necessity in this particular build order matchup.
What's the risk for you here in the 1 gate? Because I know what I think it might be, but I'm curious to hear.
So one risk is that because I didn't scout, what he could have done is play 2-gate, sure, but he could have took the gold base, and I would never know about it until it's too late. And he would actually probably be ahead economically, just because the gold base is crazy good. So that's one play he could have made. Another play would just be, I mean, I'm not too scared of it, but he could have went like double Oracle and expand behind it and try to deal some economical damage, while playing macro behind it. So that was one other play.
I mean, that was really good timing of you, though, to be able to scout where his army is, and also move up to the main base and catch that warp prism with that like kind of timing there. Like, just kind of shows to kind of your awareness of your base at that point in time.
Yeah, so if you play 1-gate a lot like me, like you kind of just start to realize what kind of tricks that they go for, and quite often they try to elevate her into your main because they find that your natural has too many static defenses. So I usually keep a scouting probe there just to watch out for any warp prisms coming into my main. So yeah, I was kind of ready for it.
I feel like it really shuts down the the 2-gate. Like I like that. Is it very map dependent, like having the 1-gate versus the 2-gate? Because we mentioned that 2-gate normally on StarGazer is what's happening. So what about the rest of the map pool for 1-gate in PvP?
Alright, let's just get StarGazers just for conversation, just because it's too crazy and it's really complicated. But on other maps, like generally the ramp maps, like Waterfall, Inside and Out, Data C, like these maps, you can safely go 1-gate 100% of the time.
Oh, okay. Wow.
But if you've tried them on map like Moondance with a short rush distance and no ramp leading to your natural, then there are certain all-ins that can definitely bust you, depending on how the player's micro and other factors as well. But it's not super consistent. You can't play it on every map.
Got it.
So you talked about how you like the map pool overall because it kind of plays into your favor for the 1-gate style of play. Do you still have that same kind of favor in other matchups? Just like random question thrown out there.
I think this map pool is pretty good for Protoss in general, across all the matchups, just because a lot of them have map pocket bases, and that's pretty good for Protoss. As well as just like long rush distance, which is usually good for Protoss, just because in PvT you want long rush distances because Terrans are always the aggressor in that matchup. So if you have more time, then you get more units to defend. And in PvZ, like I think it's pretty even, but there are some very good maps for Protoss in that matchup, like in Moondance, like that's very good for Protoss just because you can block their natural very quickly, and then there's just a lot of plays you can make on that map. So
perfect.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna get into our next game. Let's take a look at that. We're going to Data C or Data C. Which one is it?
I don't remember.
I was like, is there a wrong answer in this?
Okay, so walk us through what's happening. What's going with you in this game? I think you may have lost this game, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what happened, but we're playing 1-gate versus 1-gate, which I feel like I should be better at that than him, but maybe I'm crazy, but I felt like he cheesed me on this map. I just don't remember though.
We'll see as we get into it, yeah.
So I'm guessing at this point, he saw you do 1-gate. He realizes to compete against your 1-gate, he's going to have to bring in his own 1-gate solution. Now you've scouted. You scouted him. You didn't scout last time.
Yeah, so you always want to scout on the 1-gate maps because if your opponent's going 1-gate, then you want to block their natural base. So you don't want to let them take a fast base like that, so you have to scout early. And since we both know that we're scouting each other because we saw the probe in the middle of the map, we're both just going to take 2 gases and delay our expansion a bit because there's no point in taking it right now because you can't.
Perfect, yeah, and it's basically just mirrored. Both of you guys just kind of sitting at the natural, checking things out, making sure no one's trying to get that base up.
Yep.
And so where's the transition then from here? Like the plan, okay, we want to get the Nexus up and everything, but like, do you already have a plan what tech you're going for at this point in time?
Yeah, so in 1-gate versus 1-gate, it's 99% of the time you're going Stargate just because you have too much gas to go for anything else.
Makes sense.
From here, we're just supposed to build zealots to get that probe away, and if they build a pylon, you can also kill that pylon. So
So now that you know that he is also going the one gate, what's your game plan in your mind to deal with it?
well, in one gate versus one gate, since both players usually go Stargate, sometimes it just ends up being a Phoenix War.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's what happened in this game, but I was definitely, keep thinking of going Phoenix War here. But it would depend on what I see coming from a Stargate. If he builds an Oracle, then I'm not going to commit to too many Phoenixes. So it's just going to be reactive from this point, and that's what the depth is going to achieve. It's going to get the scout so I can see what he's up to.
Interesting. So the Oracle helps determine how you're going to play it. That makes perfect sense then.
Yeah, and I don't scout anything here, which is, not good for me, but
You got locked out really early. I guess he
he
knows.
did a good job there.
He knows he wanted to make sure you didn't have any information.
He even
Yeah,
tried to
because
do a
of this
little
lack of so I now
mind
remember
game,
what happened in
too.
this game. So because of the lack of information, I kind of went for a build that would kind of like beat almost every build if it doesn't get scouted. So that's why I kind of went for a gamble and just didn't pay off. So
Wait, so
I
what?
believe I went DT here.
Okay, so you went for a build that you would beat every other build, and that's DT? Is that what you said?
So DTs win in a Phoenix War because if your opponent's just building Phoenix, they have no detection.
Mm.
And I saw no oracles when I scouted my depth. Like I didn't see an oracle in the production, so that's another less chance of having detection for him. And I don't know. I just kind of took this gamble here to go DTs because I didn't feel confident in my Phoenix War at this point because I mean I don't know exactly what he's doing, like because it's a scout, and for all I know, he's going blink. Like he built one Phoenix to fake it, and then he's going blink. Like, I don't know, but DTs beat blink and DTs beat Phoenix, so I was just like, okay.
It's the safer gamble in that with the information at hand, you made those choices. That makes perfect sense then.
Yeah, but my one mistake here really was not proxying the Dark Shrine. Instead, I built it in my base, which makes it easier scoutable. If I had hidden it properly, I might have won this game.
Is DT's the only gamble? Like, is that in this situation, or is this just
The other gamble you can make is like build 3 Phoenixes and then go into blink, and hope your opponent doesn't notice. But
which you're kind of worried he was going.
Just praying your opponent doesn't
You're kind of worried he was doing that, right? You're worried he was.
Yeah, I
going
was
into
also
blink.
worried he was doing that.
Right, got it.
Where he went heavy into the Stargate. He got a second Stargate and was going into Phoenix and stuff. So he's really going. And like you said, he was able to get into your base, get that scouting information, find the Dark Shrine. So now he can kind of fully prepare for when the DTs show up on his side.
Yeah, and
Are you proxying? You're proxying this gateway to get those.
yeah, for the fast warping.
Fourth, got it.
Another reason that I went for DTs here is because I really thought he was going to go blink, just because Nightmare doesn't usually like Phoenix Wars. Like I've played him, before this tournament as well, and I've never seen him go for Phoenix War. So I just wasn't really expecting him to actually do that, but he obviously did.
Did we get a warp? We did get the warp in. So you're kind of a little trapped here.
My DTs are just doing nothing. Yeah, he has an observer already. There's just nothing really to do here.
So now that kind of doesn't work how you planned, what is the next step to go against it here? Obviously, you're fighting off Phoenixes in your bane.
Well, I think one fair option would just be to leave. Honestly, this game is over. But if I was really trying hard, then you could go Archons, and because there's nothing to contest Archons right now. You try to go Archons and somehow get into his base, but he has a wall, so it's probably not happening.
What went wrong with these DTs? Because
I believe he got scouted.
Okay. Did he see it? Did I miss
The Phoenix got to sneak in. I think
and
as
he
the Dark
saw
Shrine was warping
Right, he
in.
knew.
So yeah, so he got to know. But you already talked about, Trigger, that if you had proxied the Dark Shrine, that would have kind of solved that issue. So you kind of already have gone back and been like, oh, this is how I can fix this next time I'm in this situation.
Right. That
And
makes
the
sense.
problem here was that I wasn't decisive enough about my build, so that my probe was really late to proxy the first pylon, and I wanted my Dark Shrine to be really fast. So didn't want to wait for the pylon to finish, then build the Dark Shrine. I wanted to just build it as soon as my Twilight Council finished. But obviously that was a mistake.
That makes sense. I got it. Because in theory, that would have made a lot better if you could proxy it out there in the top corner.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this is looking a little over, I think. So.
Yeah, it's pretty over.
All right. We got your 1-on-1 now up against Nightmare. The next map will be back to Stargazer. Wait, nope, sorry. Tropical Sacrifice. We'll be going to Tropical Sacrifice. What is the plan before you get into this next game?
Well, I think I just made some mistakes in my 1-gate play, and I'm very confident in my 1-gate versus 1-gate, so I just figured, okay, I'm gonna do 1-gate versus 1-gate again. This time I'm not gonna, make any mistakes, and I should be good. So
the plan is just to keep 1-gate. You're basically gonna clean up mistakes, but at the same time, you know that your 1-gate is better than his 1-gate.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to go for 2-gate here, just because Nightmare is very experienced in 2-gate versus 2-gate. He's way less experienced in 1-gate versus 1-gate. So I wasn't really scared of his 1-gate, right? So I figured I'd just go 1-gate again. And if he goes 1-gate, that's fine by me. I should be the better player there.
All right. Then let's see how this goes.
So he plays 2-gate in this game, I remember.
He does. Tropical Sacrifice. Here we go. Tropical Sacrifice, yay, nay? You like?
I don't like the map.
You know,
just
like
because the bases are very spread apart. So if you get into a late game against Terran, it's pretty difficult to defend all your bases.
All right, so here we are, Tropical Sacrifice. Your game plan is you're going 1-gate.
Yep.
But as a spoiler for those who were paying attention, Nightmare is going to go 2-gate. And so were you kind of surprised that he went 2-gate?
I've seen him do this before, but given the context of what was going on in our series thus far, I was expecting him to play 1-gate. But when I saw this, I wasn't in shock or anything. I was just like, okay, this should be good for me if I don't mess up.
Mm-hmm. It's like you said, you've played against him before, so you kind of know the way that his play style is going to be, and you just felt like if you did everything right, you would have the advantages here.
Yeah, especially in 1-gate versus 1-gate. In 1-gate versus 2-gate, all I need to do is not die to something stupid, and I should be ahead.
So why would he go 2-gate? What would he must know that too. He knows that his 2-gate didn't do good against your 1-gate. Was he trying to go for a gambit here? What was his process of thinking? You think for him to go 2-gate against you instead of go up against you with 1-gate?
So generally, when players go 2-gate on 1-gate maps, it's just because they have some kind of trick that they want to try, and there's a lot of options as a 2-gate player. You could go for Oracle, you could go for an all-in, you could play macro, you can even go proxy nexus. There's so many options, and the 1-gate player can't really scout every single option. So they're kind of just hoping to get lucky, and the 1-gate player chooses the incorrect response to their build. So yeah, that's usually how it goes for a 2-gate player.
So it's a little bit of a gamble.
Yeah, it's definitely a gamble.
Wait, so at this point though, you got the information, so you know he's going 2-gate. You're confident. You're gonna stick. Got a little pylon here in the middle of the map.
Yeah, so I know that there's no pylon in his main, so therefore it's somewhere out on the map. So at this point I know he's proxying something. I just don't know what. I was kind of expecting maybe proxy Robo so that he can all in me. But he's going for Stargate here, which kind of indicates he wants to play macro after dealing some economical damage. But obviously I didn't know this in the game, so.
No, yeah. Do you go looking for the proxy at this point, or did you just gotta say, all right, I know it's a proxy something, but...
Some players like to scout every single corner of the map to find the proxy when they do this, like MaxPax does that. As for me, I'm just I'm losing too many minerals if I do that. So
if you're sending it out, that makes sense.
I'm just gonna not scout it and just play defensive, and I should still be ahead. no matter what it is.
To prepare for an unknown proxy, what are your options here in terms of, just like you say, you're a defensive player, you're going to play defensively, but what are your core options to fight that?
Well, I like to go Robo, just because you can build Immortals, which are very strong against all-ins. You just have to make sure that you have one battery in your main, and that'll help against any Oracles, and it also helps if they're going Warp Prism and they're trying to elevator into your main base. That battery can come in handy in that situation as well. So I'll just be sure to have a battery in each base, although I don't have a battery in this base, which is obviously why I lose probes here. But yeah, I should have a battery in each base and just make a lot of units. And try to get a scout in at some point again, just to see if he's building a Nexus behind us.
So now you know he did Proxy Stargate. Phoenixes again, so we're back to Phoenixes. Do you, at this point, you probably surmise he's going Phoenixes? This is pretty much like
I think he canceled that Phoenix, and
did he?
I don't know why he started the Phoenix, honestly.
Oh, he did. Oh, weird.
But yeah, you don't really go Phoenix unless your opponent's going Stargate. Phoenixes are just not that good against ground units. So
I wonder why he went Phoenix. He just probably maybe a misclick or a mistake.
Yeah, or maybe he was thinking something crazy, like he wants to use the Phoenix to pick up my Immortal to get that out of the fight. But I mean, that's just not a very strong play, I think. So he probably saw better of it.
All right, so he's now transitioning and getting into the blink tech of things. You're also going to be adding the Twilight Council on, but your tech is already kind of more developed. You're getting your scouts out with the observer, so you're basically just full on defensive mode until you get more information with this observer scout. Is that your next plan?
Partially, but here's the thing: is that I full walled because of the depths, kept shading
Right.
in. So that means I can't even take a third base if I wanted to. So I have to play defensive no matter what. I can't really be greedy here because there's no way to be greedy. So yeah, I just kind of chilled out and get some information before deciding my next move. If I want to kill my own wall to get that base up, or if I want to keep it for a while.
I feel like, and you mentioned this earlier, is that when you're doing one base, you do decide to kill your own wall here at this point.
Yeah. Make sure you get one last weapon from it, though.
Don't let it go to waste. Yeah.
Like you were saying, though, you said earlier is that when you do one gate, you do end up playing defense. You don't have to play defensive, but you'll feel stronger on the defense.
Well, you have to play defensive.
You have to.
Yeah, because you're down to one production facility, so there's no aggressive options in that situation.
Now, is there a risk of being economically behind a lot going in this direction?
I mean, there's a small risk, but my Nexus is faster, so as long as I keep producing probes, I should always have a higher probe count than him. It's mathematically impossible for him to have a higher probe count than me, unless I lose a bunch of probes. So, yeah, the only risk is if I lose a bunch of probes to Oracles or something like that. So.
Roger.
So walk me through the choice to go for the Dark Shrine again. Was that just kind of getting in there and saying, okay, he doesn't have a Robo Bay yet. He's basically behind on ability to observe, except for with Oracles. I can get away with this, or were you thinking of something else along?
Yeah, so generally when people play Oracles, or if they only play one Oracle, they always skip the Robo because it takes too much gas to go into a robotics facility and blink at the same time. And they're relying on one Oracle to do all the detection for them. But the reality is that one Oracle is usually not good enough, especially if I'm putting DTs in each of his bases. He can't revelate all of his bases at the same time. So I was kind of just hoping that he would play greedy here, which he does, and rely on one Oracle for detection, which is obviously not good enough if I have DTs everywhere.
So this time you didn't proxy. You obviously brought in the Warp Prism to bring it in.
Right, because I really wanted to get into his main so that I could split him up, split up the revelation as much as possible. So there's no need to proxy. If I proxy, then all my DTs will walk in from one point, and he could potentially revelate all of them.
And you weren't even worried, or maybe you were kind of hoping that he wouldn't scout. the shrine with Revelation or with the Oracle popping in.
I mean, it'd be pretty hard for him to scout it because I had Blink and I had Stalkers in my main. He'd have to go all the way to the left side, which
Right.
would be pretty hard for him to do. I could have procced the Dark Shrine as well if I had the presence of mind to send my probe out 30 seconds before I made that decision, which I didn't. So, you know.
Ooh, stasis. We'll speed it up a little bit. So now, you got your DTPs, you got some damage in. What's the next step? What are we looking to transition? He's got observers.
Well, I just wanted to kill him at this point because I felt like I did enough damage with the DTs to just go for like a finishing move potentially. I didn't want to go into a macro game versus him because he's actually pretty strong in macro. So I figured I'd just go for the strong timing.
I think this is it. It looks like the killing blow.
I was like, yeah, you have a great attack here. You lose your Warp Prism, but overall, like, you basically wipe out that entire base with that push.
Yeah,
it's
so
like,
his big mistake here was he sent all of his Stalkers to kill one DT on the left side. And as soon as I found that, I was like, okay, well, you're out of position. I'm going to attack your base. And yeah, it worked out really well.
And I feel like you felt very confident this game. Like, you sound very confident. Were you feeling that kind of confidence when you're in the game? Like, after
Yeah, and I knew I won at this point because I'm up 2 bases. So all I need to do is like not die here. So I just go home and like chill, let him attack into me, and yeah. I mean, he has nothing here, right?
yeah, right. You've already seen everything that he's got. Like, you've had great vision of things, and you've basically crushed his army already once. So, you powered up. You had all the extra gateways too, so your production is so much better than his.
Yeah, and I checked his 4th base, make sure he didn't actually have a 4th base behind us, because if I go home too early and he actually has another base there, like, he could potentially turn it into another macro game. But yeah, I saw that there's no base there, so there's only one move left for him to do, and that's to attack me and just play defensive.
Now, one thing I wanted to just circle back onto while you're doing this death blow here was when you saw him pull all his Stalkers to go for the DTs. Yeah. Do you feel like he did that because it was an overreaction? Or like what? Because you obviously gained a lot of confidence from that, him moving out of position. What did you read in your mind was why he reacted like that?
Well, it's definitely just a mistake from him. I mean, like, you can just send 3 Stalkers and an Observer to kill that instead of 15 Stalkers. But I also knew that he has a tendency to do stuff like that because I watched his games against Estrella before this match to prepare, and he did the exact same thing against Estrella where he chases one DT with his entire army, and I guess that's like a bad habit he has because he did it in this game as well.
Oh, are you in? Yeah, you're just dropping them in his base. All right, I think it's fair to say that this game is over. Cool. GG's.
Yep. GG.
All right. All right, so that was 2-1. 2-1 against Nightmare. So what would you do? Like, what would be your thoughts to advice for someone who's using the 1 gate on the ladder? Pros and cons.
My advice is just to stick with it. A lot of players try 1 gate and at first they suck terribly with it because you have to know so many things, and they just go back to 2 gate. But you need a lot of experience, all these all-ins. Study Max Packs because he's the best at it, and you'll eventually get better at it. So, yeah, it takes a long time. It's pretty complicated, but it is the best build at the moment.
Now, for those who are trying to counter the 1 gate, who is the best player who's good at countering the 1 gate?
I don't want to say myself because I know so much about it. Like, that's why I can counter. Like, I've beaten Max Packs a couple times now in tournaments, just because I know like what is bad against and like what some of the tricks are against that.
Yeah.
But other than me, there's obviously a lot of other players like even there's a 13-year-old named Fire who does 3-gate robo every game, but he's really good at it, and he can break like a lot of really good players who play 1-gate. There's just like other players as well, like what was his name? Like maybe Spats and like other Protoss, but most of the top Protoss players just play 1-gate.
Yeah.
Really cheese. So.
Oh, cool. Thoughts, Banana Man? We just went through 1-gates. What are your?
I mean, it was a great series. I'm just curious to kind of expand a little bit from your PvP stuff that you did here at TSL 9 to kind of jumping over to DreamHack, because we just had the regionals take place for NA, and you did very well at that. I mean, making top 4. You played a lot of the best NA Protoss players for that event, like Neeb, Estrella, stuff like that. How did you feel like your 1-gate stuff kind of matched up against those players?
Well, I beat Neeb, so I guess I went pretty well. And I should have beat Estrella. That series really hurts me because I don't know if you saw the game, but I threw the final game. I should have won the series after the league comeback as well. So, but like I feel like if we were to play again, like if I were to play Estrella again, I should be like 60% win rate maybe. Like I feel very confident in that matchup right now. So
Just give us like what went wrong in that game. Since I don't have that game in front of me, or I didn't see it, but what went wrong?
Oh, I just like got a bit overeager. Like I was completely winning the game, and I was just like, okay, I want to end him. And I blinked onto his army, and he had a bunch of disruptors, kind of blew up all my units. And I was like, and then the game equalized, and he eventually won. So yeah, that game is pain, but it is what it is.
Right, but it's a learning experience, is what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah, and losing a lot of money experience as well.
The money is always that's where the real learning happens. My man Trigger knows. He's like, that's where the real learning happens, where you're like, those dollar bills escaped this time.
Yeah, and I also lose EPT points.
Oh yes.
That's very important for qualifying for Katowice, and that kind of just like ended my chances, honestly. But hopefully this next year, and I can do it again next year. So
to round off some of these two last parts of this conversations, how important, because you have sort of gone all in literally on StarCraft, how important is it that you get into this like Katowice and into like the greater pro circuit? Like, are you going to be giving yourself a runway of X amount of years? Or is it like if you're one and done? Like, what is your plan?
Well, my initial plan was to, if I made a Katowice this year, I would continue, and if I didn't, then I wouldn't. But I think I'm just going to continue anyways because, like, I've been kind of exploring other ways to make money, is like streaming and like content creation, stuff like that, and as well as the fact that I have a team that that pays me very well and supports me a lot, and I feel like that's not something I was expecting initially. So keep that in mind. It's
changed your plans. So essentially, your plans have changed because of these other external things. In terms of like pro StarCraft, like let's say hypothetically StarCraft maybe doesn't get renewed for next season, 2023. What have you thought that far ahead? What you may or may not do?
Well, I don't know exactly when Stormgate comes out, but if Stormgate comes out quick enough, then I might try that and stream it as well. And I can try that for like a month or two, see how it goes. But yeah, if StarCraft 2 doesn't get renewed next year, then I think there's a high chance that I go back to school.
Roger that. All right, well then, why don't you tell us about where can people find you, what you're streaming, give us the lowdown and any shoutouts you might have.
So my Twitch is my Twitch username is TriGGeR_ZC, and you can find me on Twitter as TriGGeR'Starcraft or TriGGeR'SC, so TriGGeR'SC. And shout out to my team, Basilisk. They've been supporting me a lot. They're paying for my flight to Philadelphia and Atlanta, so it's obviously a big help. So yeah.
That's fantastic. I think one day I'm going to get team members like people from Basilisk and just have them on the show and just ask them about what is it like about StarCraft that attracted them the first. I watched their launch announcement back in Homestrike Cup, and I've been so curious about their team. So, cool. And so those of you who are watching, all those things will be in the description. You can find Trigger's stream, his Twitter, follow him, and get some of that more Trigger knowledge. All right, cool, everybody. Nanman, tell people about yourself before we glow.
Cool. So I'm Nanman, or the real Nanman. So you can check me out on Twitter or Twitch, and then also ESChamp stuff, because I'm working with you guys and doing
Yes, we
cool
are.
StarCraft stuff. So
Absolutely. And all that stuff in description. All right, people. That's been this episode. Catch you next time. Good luck and have fun.